It's the Poojie Podcast, proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club. What is going on, Pooj Crew? Thanks for being here for episode 100 of the Poojie Podcast, and thank you for being dedicated listeners to the show, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on podcast streaming platforms, iHeart, Spotify, Apple, wherever you may be. Thank you for always tuning in and helping get me this far. If you've been on before as a guest, thank you for coming on and helping provide content for the show. And thank you to the sponsors as well, Cimarron Golf Club, String Sports Brewery, and Shores Pub Mandarin as well, for always helping out the podcast, keeping us going. And I'll have to get to some of those places here soon. The weather's been beautiful and there's a lot of sports going on. And that's what we got lined up for you today, a packed episode, fun episode, some new segments coming out that I'm excited to talk about, but a great show lined up with so many sports going on, which is kind of interesting being in late July, early August. Not too many sports actually happening. However, 2021, making up for 2020, we'll start off with the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Kind of interesting. This is going to be one of those years down the line, 40, 50, 60 years in the history books, where kids are looking back at Olympic records saying, what in the world happened here? How did this happen? Why is there a year 2021 with the 2020 Olympics? Well, obviously we all know why, but just kind of interesting. 5 years since the last Olympics in Rio in 2016, only 3 years away from the next Olympics. And we'll have the Winter Olympics coming up in 2021, or 2022, excuse me. So kind of a treat for all of us sports fans out there. And Poojie loves his sports. And honestly, let's be real, half the time watching the Olympics, you're just trying to figure out what the rules are, right? You're trying to figure out fencing, where you can hit, how you get points, what's handball, what the infractions are, water polo. They have a little red box that the guys swim into if they get a penalty. It's pretty wild. So many crazy sports. Luckily, I've had my roommates here helping me walk through some of the rules and trying to learn some of the rules. Obviously, you have your basic sports like basketball, but now we have 3v3 basketball, 3-on-3 basketball. The U.S. women walked away with the gold medal in that earlier this morning in week 1 of the Olympics. Obviously, this is a 2-week event. The Olympics are big news coming out of the Olympics. Simone Biles, the world-renowned gymnast, the 4'8" phenom, coming out of Florida, or coming out of America, excuse me, withdrawals from the team event, will still likely compete individually. However, she felt like she was anchoring down her team. She was not in the right space mentally, and I got to hand it to her. To be able to withdraw from the Olympics, obviously she was in it in the 2016 Olympics in Rio. That's where she took the world by storm. She decides to withdraw in the middle of the team event. The team still walked away with silver, so you wonder, okay, would she have been able to help her team complete gold? But she was just not in the right space mentally. I'm not a gymnastics freak by any means. I don't know what the rules are, but from what I heard and what I saw, it did kind of seem like maybe she was in a little bit of a mental block. She wasn't completing her tricks the right way, her moves the right way. I don't even know what they're called, tricks or moves, whatever. But she wasn't performing them the right way, at least up to her standard. And she mentioned, she was very candid, and I wish more athletes were like this. She mentioned that the pressure just got to her. It was weighing on her. She felt like she was carrying the weight of the world, or the weight of America, on her back, and she was. Let's be real. Every commercial involves her for the Olympics. All the NBC coverage at night involves the gymnastics teams, including Simone Biles. So as tough as it is to see her bail out of the Olympics, at least in the team event, good on her to at least stick by what she feels like she needed to do. So what does that mean for the rest of the gymnastics teams? Like I said, they won silver. Hopefully we'll see her back competing individually. That would be a lot of fun. But more athletes need to be candid about this. We see a lot of these people as just athletes. That's what they are. And not to be cheesy, not to be repetitive, but they're humans at the end of the day. And as Michael Phelps has said pretty repeatedly on NBC's coverage of the Olympics, it's okay not to be okay. They're humans first and athletes second. So Simone Biles, don't be too harsh on her. I know everyone's going to have their opinions. People are comparing it to if Michael Jordan were to have walked away from a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. I don't necessarily find that the case. I mean, this is an event that's every 4 years, and the hype building up to it is because of you, is on you. It's weighing on you. So she withdraws from the Olympics. And some other exciting news: the U.S. swimming team, they've had their ups and downs. They maybe aren't as good as they once were, but about 70% of this U.S. swimming team are rookies, which is insane. And they only have 3 years to wait till the 2024 Olympics. So we're going to see these people again very soon, and they're medaling. They're competing at the highest standard right now. They're winning golds, they're winning silvers. In fact, 17-year-old Lydia Jacobs out of Alaska wins the gold in her event over Katie Ledecky, her hero. She goes on, Lydia Jacobs wins and captures gold. First Alaskan gold medal, I think, in Olympic history, at least in swimming. Funny thing is, Alaska has one 50-meter pool in the whole state of Alaska. 150-meter pool. Everything else is frozen, I guess. But she has 150-meter pool to swim and train in. She ends up getting it done. I think she's going to Texas, new SEC member. We'll get into that. She's going to Texas to swim for her collegiate career. So cool moment there. Also in swimming as well, Katie Ledecky wins the first ever women's 1,500 meter freestyle, which is an insane race. This is like the marathon of races. This is like when you're watching track and field and they're running 5,000 meters and they're doing 100 laps, and it's crazy. Katie Ledecky takes the 1,500 meter by about 3 seconds over American Erica, what was her name? Erica, I can't think of the last name, but the American swimmer went first, second in the event for the first time in the Olympics that this event was. Katie Ledecky is also the world record holder in that and the world champion, reigning world champion as well. So cool moment there to see her compete in the 1,500 meter. In fact, they were doing some statistic, balancing, and apparently in her lifetime she swam like 22,000 miles worth of laps, which would go from Washington, D.C. all the way down past South America, under Africa, under Australia, and up to Tokyo. So pretty crazy. 22,000 miles. I'm pretty sure that's like the distance of the equator around the Earth she has swam in her young career. So congrats to Katie Ledecky. However, she did fail to medal in the 200-meter free, which was only about an hour and 15 minutes before her 1,500-meter swim. So it makes you think, was she already looking ahead to her marquee event? Maybe. She came in fourth, which was very shocking to a lot of the Olympic world, especially, I'm sure, some of the swimming world, not to see her medal. And even crazier, the men's 4x200 free relay, which we've seen that in the past with the 4x100, 4x200. This is an event where there's four men. They each go the length of the pool 4 times. The Americans failed to podium in that event, finishing fourth. That was the first time the men have not medaled in the U.S. has not medaled in a team relay event in 95 attempts. 95 times has that event occurred. 94 times the Americans have medaled. So pretty crazy there to see that. Obviously, we don't have Michael Phelps. Caleb Dressel wasn't on the team. Ryan Murphy not on the team. Ryan Lochte, obviously, not in the Olympics this year. So a lot of the names that we're used to over the last few Olympics are not involved in this swimming team. But a cool swimming story: the Tunisian swimmer Ahmed Hafnao, I can't pronounce his name, Ahmed something, wins the first ever gold medal in the 400-meter free for Tunisia. But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part was the way the family was reacting in Tunisia. If you have not seen this video clip yet, go watch it as soon as possible because it was heartwarming. It gave me goosebumps. Tunisian swimmer, 400-meter free. Go look it up now. First time ever Tunisia has won a gold in that event, and it was crazy. He was the 8th seed entering the event. So anyone that knows swimming, it goes 1 to 8 on the lanes. If you're watching on TV, 4 and 5 are typically the best. 3 and 6 are next. 2, 7, and then 1, 8. So he was the very last qualifier in the finals. He comes home, beats Kieran Smith of the USA in the 400-meter free. He comes home with the gold medal to Tunisia. And in the gymnastics news, I know we talked about U.S. women. Russian gymnast Artur again Dalalyana. I can't pronounce his name either. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Dalalyana. However you want to say that. Tore his Achilles 3 months ago. This dude tore his Achilles 3 months ago, and he came out and competed with the ROC. Remember, this isn't Russia in the Olympics because of the doping scandal from the Olympics a few years ago. This is, I think it was the Sochi Olympics, actually, 2018 maybe. That was Pyeongchang, maybe 2014 Winter Olympics. So the Russians are competing under the ROC, the Russian Olympic Committee. Russian gymnast tears his Achilles, comes back, helps his team win the gold in the all-team event, the team finals, which was pretty interesting. The USA softball team, now this is pretty wild. Softball's been in the Olympics. It just got reintroduced this year, first time since 2008, I want to say. So it's back in the Olympics. Kat Osterman, 38 years old, still playing. She did play back in the 2008 Olympics as well. So that's a crazy story too. They fall to Japan 2-0. They capture the silver, but this event's been in the Olympics 5 times: 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008, and now 2020. Again, only 2 countries have ever won the gold. The U.S. won the first 3 in Atlanta. I think then it was, Sydney, and then Athens in 2004. And then Japan beat U.S. in 2008 when it was in Beijing, I want to say, and then this year. So U.S. up 3-2 in the all-time, but Japan has won the last 2 gold medal matches in softball, which is pretty wild to see these 2 countries going at it. I mean, there's a sport. Obviously, Japan is very dominant in a lot of sports, but it's cool to see these 2 countries dominate this sport to the point where there is now a rivalry every 4 years in the Olympics between these 2 in this event, which is pretty awesome. And Japan doesn't wear pants. They wear shorts while they play, which is a pretty cool thing to watch. Just super casual. It looks like they're playing beer league softball out there in the Olympics. So Japan wins in a shutout 2-0 over the U.S. And then in surfing, 4 new events: surfing, karate, skateboarding, and sport climbing, which, by the way, these new sports in the Olympics, like there's new sports every year. They get sent to the committee and petitioned and blah, blah, blah. Well, surfing's on it this year, and Carissa Moore out of Honolulu, Hawaii, she wins the gold and the first ever women's gold medal in surfing. That was pretty cool, but it was crazy because it kept getting delayed because the weather was too bad and the waves weren't right. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you plan a surfing event without even knowing what the weather's going to be or knowing what the waves are going to be doing? But anyway, they ended up getting the event done. Carissa Moore wins. Some Brazilian dude won for the men's. So cool for the U.S. to win the first ever female women's gold medal in surfing, karate, skateboarding, sport climbing. I think sport climbing hasn't happened yet. The other 2, skateboarding was pretty fun to watch. It looked like a bunch of kids just out there having fun. It looked a little too formal for me, to be honest. I feel like it needed to be a little bit more of a casual setup. They had they were wearing uniforms and stuff. I just kind of wanted to see them rocking their Bose headphones and, maybe some of them, ripping joints, just getting high, whatever, just hanging out, just like at normal skate parks you would see. But skateboarding was pretty fun to watch. It just wasn't as natural as you would have thought it was. It was very structured. It was more, obviously X Games style. It wasn't just like a bunch of people out there skating. So that was pretty cool. Baseball's coming back into the Olympics as well as, like I mentioned, softball is back. And golf is in the Olympics again for the 2nd straight year. 2016 saw Justin Rose win the gold medal for England. He's not in it, I don't want to say, this year for England. I think it's Tommy Fleetwood. Who else is in it for England? I can't even think, but Tommy Fleetwood's in it for England. I don't think Justin Rose is. But the big story is the top 2 favorites, Jon Rahm out of Spain, who won the U.S. Open, and Bryson DeChambeau out of America, who's won nothing except for a U.S. Open when it didn't really count because there weren't fans. They both withdraw. Now, you might be saying to yourself, yeah, Jon Rahm has a new baby, blah, 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 he doesn't want to get COVID. Well, sadly enough, he already got COVID. That's the whole reason he had to withdraw in the first place, was he got COVID again for the 2nd time in a month, which is crazy. If you remember, he had a withdrawal from the Memorial back a few months ago. And then Bryson DeChambeau withdraws just to withdraw, says he, COVID protocol, whatever it is. But the real story is, are these guys doing steroids? That's the big question. Is PGA Tour doesn't test for all these substances. They're not as strict on all these substances. Yeah, maybe they do testing here and there, but the IOC, we've seen it. Players get banned or get sent home or whatever it is for testing high for too much testosterone if you're a female, or different substances like vitamin B12, whatever. I don't even know. So it makes you wonder. Bryson DeChambeau and Jon Rahm, are they doping? Is that why they didn't want to go? Did they not want to get caught with doping scandals? You might be thinking as a logical person and saying, well, no, they just competed in the British Open, the Open Championship. They've had a long season. The FedEx Cup playoffs are coming up. Well, that's not the fun way to think about it. It's more fun to think that they might be doing drugs, and that's why they can't be there. However, Colin Morikawa, the Open champion golfer of the year, is there. He'll be favorite with Xander Schauffele and Justin Thomas. So 3 Americans at the top, and Patrick Reed takes Bryson DeChambeau's place. And not a loaded field at all. Not a loaded field for Olympic golf. It's, obviously a bunch of countries are in it. You're going to have maybe about 25-30% of recognizable names. Everything else is just kind of like the Kazakhstani golfer that's not on tour. He qualified. He's in the Olympics, which makes you wonder, is the Olympic golf event, is that even like on the top 5 for golfers to achieve in their career? Like, I feel like it's more of a accomplishment to just make it to the Olympics to represent your country, which is cool. But a part of me feels like these golfers would rather win the Masters or the Open Championship or the U.S. Open or the PGA Championship or the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup, like, or the FedEx Cup. There's so many events in the world of golf that I feel like maybe have more meaning to golfers just because of the history of the sport, that the Olympics, it's like, yeah, it'll get you excited to watch golf. It's a cool venue, cool country to play in that you don't typically see these golfers play in. But is it really that meaningful, or is it just cool to be there for the U.S., to represent the U.S.? And now you can say you're an Olympian forever, which I think is the bigger thing. You're an Olympian forever. That's the big symbolic thing behind it, is not necessarily winning or medaling, whatever, that'd be cool, but you're there competing for your country, which is a pretty neat, I guess, moment for you to be able to do that. So golf starts coming up Wednesday night, actually. So I guess when you're listening to this, round 1 will be concluded, which is awesome. 6:30 tee times p.m., which is like 7 a.m. Japan time. And Hideki Matsuyama's in the field representing the hometown country, the host country, and he's playing at the golf course where he qualified as an amateur to go play the Masters back in 2004. So a little bit of a cool tie-in there for him. And another cool tie-in, 2 players that are going to be absolutely dying to win, Siwoo Kim and Sung Jae Im. So Siwoo Kim, Sung Jae Im, obviously recognizable names. Siwoo Kim, former TPC winner. Sung Jae Im, a guy that plays like every event on tour. They have to win this. They have to medal in this event, so they don't need to put their golf career on pause to go be in the military for South Korea. So let me re-say that. Apparently South Korea has this rule that if you medal in an Olympic event, you get to forego your military duties as a member of that country. So if Siwoo Kim and Sung Jae Im do not medal, they will potentially have to put their career on pause at some point and have to go into the military for 2 years and then get back to golf. So if they win this, it at least gives them a chance to forego that military obligation for South Korea, and that'll be a fun storyline to kind of follow. But let's shift gears a little bit into the NFL. Training camps are right around the corner, which is pretty cool. So that's literally here. Rookies have been there for a week. Veterans are reporting. Football's here. This felt like it was the fastest offseason ever. I don't know why, but it did. So the offseason's pretty much over, right? August rolls around. You have football for 7 straight months, whatever it is. August, September, October, November, December, January, February. So 7 straight months we're going to have football now starting in August. Hall of Fame games like a week away. Full capacity there. NFL playing full capacity and stuff. But the storyline is Deshaun Watson shows up to the Texans camp and literally does nothing. He shows up and he's just like there. I mean, it'd be like one of us showing up and just kind of hanging out just to collect a paycheck. And I think he used the old Marshawn Lynch quote, "I'm just here so I don't get fined." He doesn't want to get fined by the Texans, so what does he do? He complies and says, well, I'll be there, but I'm just not going to do anything. So don't plan for me to be in your game plan at all. So will the Texans even play football this year? Who knows? Jags play the Texans. They open up against the Texans on September 12th this season. So maybe Trevor Lawrence can get off to a hot start. Maybe a win for the Jags like last season and go 1-0 to start the season. That'd be fun. Aaron Rodgers also shows up to training camp as well. Kind of an interesting situation we've been monitoring all offseason. He hasn't been happy with the regime. He wants, no one knows if he wants a contract. No one knows if he wants, new management, whatever the case is. Aaron Rodgers is there, and in his press conference talking about, I was considering retiring. In long story short, he just wants a say in what's going on. He wants to have a voice in the direction of the team. I mean, this is his job. He's the number 1 player on the team. He's the reason they've lost 4 NFC championships, but they've gotten there. So participation trophies all around. He wants to have a voice. He wants to have a say in what's going on. And, the Packers a few years ago draft Jordan Love in the first round. Would trading Jordan Love make Aaron Rodgers any more happy? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe. But Aaron Rodgers was Jordan Love when Brett Favre was still a Packer. So what difference does it make, right? Like Aaron Rodgers should go out there, compete, be the best. Or maybe he's scared of Jordan Love because he knows that's exactly what he did to Brett Favre. Nonetheless, Aaron Rodgers is there. It doesn't seem to be a contract problem because they offered him an extension that would have made him the highest paid player in the league, and he declined it. So maybe his eyes are elsewhere. Maybe he wants to just retire, and he's just here for one last year. He kind of teased at The Last Dance Michael Jordan documentary with Davante Adams, up there, top 5 wide receiver in the league. Some would say top 3, top 2. Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs is up there. Michael Thomas is up there when he's healthy. Davante Adams pretty much blatantly said, I want to be the highest paid receiver in the league or else I'm not going to be a Green Bay Packer next year. So that's kind of an interesting stance. Davante Adams has never seemed to be the kind of guy that would come out and say that, but neither was Yannick Ngakoue when he was with the Jaguars and he started getting upset with the regime here in Jacksonville. That's for another day. And the NFL sends out a memo, a policy to the league regarding COVID for the 2021-2022 season. Now, let's remember, last season, NFL played all 256 games, all playoff games, Super Bowl, everything on time. Yeah, some games were maybe on a Wednesday at 5 p.m., but every game got played. Well, now we're in a situation, cases are increasing, whatever. NFL is putting the hammer down, pretty much saying there's a vaccine that's backed by science that's available to everyone for free no matter what your health care is. If you're not going to go get it, there's going to be consequences. It's pretty much the NFL forcing the hand of players to go get COVID vaccines, even though we've seen some people get positive tests even when they have the vaccine. So I think there needs to be more clarity on what the vaccine is for. Is it for mitigating symptoms? Is it to stop the spread? What's it for? But anyways, the NFL says any team that's not able to play a game after trying to reschedule it, so if a game gets canceled and can't be rescheduled, the team that was affected by COVID will be handed a loss. They'll forfeit the game. And none of the players on either team will receive the game check because the NFL won't be making money from the TV or from the gate receipts or merchandise or concessions, whatever it is. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. However, there is an interesting note in the memo that it's if there's an outbreak among unvaccinated players. So what that means, if you're vaccinated and you get COVID, you're off the hook, right? You've tried to prevent it, you've tried to take the steps to prevent it, and it didn't work, whatever, that's okay. If you're not vaccinated and you get COVID and you cause a spread, you might be costing your team a forfeit. We've seen some coaches actually already get fired or released for already saying they're not going to get it based on their age, and the team doesn't want to take the risk of having to deal with forfeits. So that's pretty interesting. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the coming weeks with the NFL season approaching in right around 4 weeks. I mean, we're here. Preseason's here. NFL's here. So we'll have more NFL talk coming up in future episodes. And in case you missed it, not really, everyone knows it by now, the Milwaukee Bucks win the NBA championship, and they won 4 straight, so Bucks in 4, but Bucks in 6. They win 4 straight, 2 in Phoenix, 1 back in Milwaukee, 1, what was it? Let me think here. So Game 6 was in Milwaukee, so they won on home because the Deer District was going crazy. That was like a COVID hotbed right there. There was like 70,000 people outside the arena going crazy, going berserko mode. So I think it was, 2 in Phoenix, 2 in Milwaukee, 1 in Phoenix, 1 in Milwaukee. So they won 4 straight to win the NBA championship. What does this mean for Giannis? Is he the best player? I have a real issue with this. I think recency bias in the NBA is maybe the most dangerous game to play. Everyone's saying Giannis is the best player. Giannis is the best player. Okay, I see what you're saying, but he's the best player on the championship team. Is that why you're saying he's the best player? Or is he actually the best player? Because in my opinion, from a very uneducated, unprofessional basketball mind that watches very limited amount of games, when I did watch him during the finals, it was not the most impressive thing in most cases. Now, Game 6 was insane. That was Giannis' legacy game. He played his ass off. He played great. But in most games, I saw him play. He had his 25, 30 points, which was expected. Excuse me. And he had a great supporting cast with Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. Yeah, great. So Giannis, best player in the league? I don't know. I don't think so, actually. I think he's top 5. There's a handful of players I would put ahead of him at this point. Kevin Durant, James Harden, LeBron James can't be left off that list. Maybe Kawhi Leonard. But Giannis, maybe he's getting that recency bias treatment right now because they won the championship and people are now saying that he is the best player in the league. So throttle back a little bit on that. What what I did like is at the end of it, he did say, we did it the right way. He was very candid on his feelings about how the Bucs won the championship, right? Him and Chris Middleton got drafted the same year, I think back in 2013, 2014. They've stayed with Milwaukee the whole way. Giannis had his chance to leave, and he didn't, which I loved as well. I'm happy to see a superstar player staying with their team. That's great. That's cool. Chris Middleton's not really the type of player that's in a position to leverage a team and leave and go. So the fact they get Drew Holiday in there, Pat Connaughton showed up. I liked the way that he handled that. We did it the right way. We didn't do a super team. We built this team from the ground up. And let's be real. If the Nets were healthy and the Lakers were healthy, would the Bucks or the Suns even have had this chance? I don't think so. But that's a part of sports. Injuries are a part of sports. And when you're an organization that sells your depth to fortify your front five, you're going to run into that. If one player gets injured, your team's going to suffer. That's what happened to those teams, right? Like the Bucks have the depth, the Bucks have the players. Brook Lopez showed up, he played well as well. You have the guys that are out there to play, barring injuries. And yeah, the Nets likely are the best team in the league. The Lakers are likely second. Will the Bucks and the Suns get a chance down the road? Probably not. I don't think this is sustainable. I think if those teams play a healthy Nets or a healthy Lakers team, it's a 5 or 6 game series. Bucks beat the Nets in 7 without James Harden or whoever was injured at the time. Insert superstar here. Again, they were coming off a shortened offseason. It was a shortened season. So let's see how this plays out next year with a full offseason and getting players back to their normal schedules and their normal regimes. What does this mean for Chris Paul? Let's get to that. Chris Paul obviously been in the league for like 15 plus years. This was a very good chance for him to win a championship. I don't think he went back to Phoenix with the idea of winning a championship. I think he went there with the idea of being a great supporting player, get the team deep in the playoffs, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, Devin Booker absolutely lit up the NBA playoffs. He was a great player. Most of the time, Game 6, he was kind of quiet, which was a little unheard of from him. There was a game in the finals that he was out. I think it was Game 2, maybe Game 3. He sat out because of poor play. But for the most part, Devin Booker's the face of the Suns. But does this hurt Chris Paul's legacy at all? Will winning a ring change the legacy at all? I don't think so. I think Chris Paul has kind of solidified himself in his role. For his whole career, he's never been the guy that I think a lot of players or people or teams look at and say, hey, this is going to be the guy that's the game changer for our team. Maybe there was a time when he was that, maybe when he was on the Hornets or whatever. Maybe there was a time where he was a game-changing player. Now I think he is like the ultimate game manager that can kind of solidify greatness for the rest of the players. So what do I mean by that? I think Chris Paul makes Devin Booker much better. I think Chris Paul makes DeAndre Ayton much better. But I don't think Chris Paul is going to be the guy that you can rely on to take over games game in and game out. And that's fine. That's fine at this point in his career. But I just feel bad that at this point in his career, he is losing opportunities to win a championship. Is it going to take him going to LA to try and win the championship with the Lakers or something like that? Maybe. But I think Chris Paul is still a phenomenal player and honestly just a great player to be a fan of. Like, he's done it the right way for most of his career. He's been a great person to follow in this league, and hats off to Chris Paul for being a part of a championship-bound team and almost getting the job done in 2021 with the NBA championship. Almost did it, but Bucks take it in 6 games, and we'll see what they can do in 2021-22. So, in the NHL news, obviously, the Tampa Bay Lightning win the championship, won the Stanley Cup, second straight year, back-to-back. So for those that said, oh, you guys, won it in a bubble without fans in Edmonton, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the deal. Now we won it in Tampa, Montreal, wherever we played, we won it. We took care of business. We got the job done. Lightning win in 5 games. Pretty cool moment in Game 5 being on home ice after being in a bubble last year, not being able to win it in front of Tampa Bay fans. Montreal gets Game 4. I think that might have been done on purpose. Who knows? But Lightning win it in Game 5. And then, of course, the boat parade. And drunk Nikita Kucherov just goes absolute ape shit. The cup breaks. Like, the cup is dented. It looks like a red Solo cup on the ground at a tailgate or something just smushed and was hitting, boats and all over the place. Boat parade's always a fun time to watch and to see the highlights from that. Jet skis all over the place. Andrei Vasilevsky puts the Conn Smythe trophy on his head. Didn't win the Vezina for some reason, but that's for another day. So Tampa Bay had a fun time. But now it's the offseason. And is Tampa going to be able to keep the team together? That's the big question. Who knows? Tyler Johnson gets traded to Chicago for defenseman Brett Seabrook. I like that move for Tampa. That's a great defenseman to bring in. You already have Sergachev. You already have Chernak among Hedman. So now you have 4 solid defensemen. We'll see what the rest of the offseason holds. But the storyline from the championship was Nikita Kucherov. Injury in Game 3, I think it was, maybe Game 4. Comes back, they win. And everyone wants to claim $18 million over the cap. Well, if you don't know, NHL policy, NHL rules is any player that's on the injured list during the season does not count towards your salary cap. So Nikita Kucherov sits out the entire season just to get activated for the playoffs. The Lightning and Julian Breeze Boys, make some moves, and the Lightning are able to stay get Kucherov back for the playoffs. They get their top line back, Braden Point, Stamkos, and Kucherov. And full throttle, Kucherov, like most points in the playoffs or most goals in the playoffs. Braden Point's up there too. And everyone's talking shit. Well, that's the rules. Lightning didn't cheat. Everyone wants to say Lightning cheaters. Well, no, it's the rules of the NHL. So suck it. I don't care. $18 million over the cap, my ass. They still won the Stanley Cup based on the rules put in place by the NHL. So deal with it. The Seattle Kraken get introduced to the NHL as the 32nd team out in the Pacific Northwest up in Seattle. Kind of a cool moment for the Vancouver Canucks too, because now they have a little locational rivalry forming in the Pacific Division of the Western Conference between the Kraken and the Canucks. So closest team to the Canucks. This is very similar to the Lightning and the Florida Panthers of the Southeast region of America. So it'll be interesting to see how the Kraken perform, if they can maybe pull off some Las Vegas Golden Knights magic like that happened like 3 years ago or whatever with the Kraken. Drafting Barclay Goodrow also from the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then college football, the big news, college football is going crazy right now. Like this offseason is what any college football fan would dream of, at least if you're not in the Big 12. You have name, image, and likeness coming out. You have playoff expansion. You have conference realignment. All this crazy shit going down. So where does it all stand? Here's what's happening. Name, image, and likeness. Players are now being paid for sponsorship, brand exposure, facial recognition stuff, whatever. It's pretty cool. But what did the NCAA do? They didn't give Reggie Bush his Heisman back. I think that's complete bullshit. Reggie Bush taking money for signing autographs or selling jerseys had nothing to do with his performance on the field. If you think he would have played worse if he didn't have money, you're absolutely wrong. Now, I get it. You can say, oh, well, he was playing better because he was getting paid and all this stuff. Well, no, that's not the case. He's going out there, maybe not necessarily for USC. He's trying to get into the NFL, which he did. He accomplished that, right, with the Saints. He goes to the NFL. Give him his Heisman back. It's that simple. Like, what he did maybe had been illegal, but him getting money did not affect him winning the Heisman. He was not a better player because he got paid. Did he break the rules? Yes, but he broke the rules off the field. He didn't break the rules on the field. What he did on the field was very legal. He didn't get to, test positive for steroids, performance-enhancing drugs, none of that. We have players all over the place taking, different drugs to enhance their performance, and this guy loses his Heisman Trophy because he made money as a college student off his name, image, and likeness, which is now legal? Come on. Like, let's be real. Give Reggie Bush his Heisman back. Don't be stupid. Name, image, and likeness. Going to be interesting to see how this plays into recruiting, because now Alabama talking about how Bryce Young, or Bryce whatever the guy's name is, Young something in Alabama, the quarterback hasn't played one snap yet. Nick Saban comes out and says he's already got a seven-figure deal lined up in Tuscaloosa. So if you don't think name, image, and likeness is going to sway some recruits, you are out of your mind. The best markets, the best teams, the biggest boosters are going to start getting the best players when it starts coming out how much money these guys are making. And playoff expansion was another big moment of this offseason so far. Going from 4 to 12 teams, I think that'll happen in the 2023 season, maybe 2024. Not too many people thrilled with that, but I'm thrilled with it. I mean, hell, people say, oh, it makes the regular season mean less. Have you ever felt that way in any other sport? Have you ever not wanted to watch a Jaguar game? Well, yeah, I have, but I still watch. Have you ever not wanted to watch your team play in a regular season game because it didn't matter because of the playoff format? No, this is just traditionalists. This is purists getting mad. Floppy Tom told me long ago they should stay at 2 teams, and I agree. I think the BCS two-team system was awesome because there was at least numbers correlating to why the teams were where they were ranked. If you were the third team, you had nothing to complain about because there was at least a statistical number where you were ranked. You were behind this team because of the number. And they introduced the CFP into the fold to try and, put the eye test into it. But pretty much what that is code for is the eye test based on conference logo. So now for the last 8 years, the eye test has favored and been more biased towards teams in the Power 5 conferences. So now with 12 teams, we'll have an opportunity to maybe see some more Cinderella teams and more group of 5 teams and maybe some more, like the Florida Gators might have a chance now. Maybe the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, they've been there in the past in the playoff. Maybe Wisconsin, those types of teams that are right there on the cusp but not there yet. And here's the deal. I like playoff expansion because it allows teams to mature and grow over the course of the season. The current format pretty much tells a team, if you don't show up at your best week 1, you will not be in the playoffs in week 13. That's pretty much what it says, week 14, whatever it is. Because if you lose 1 or 2 games early in the season, and then you become the best team in the nation by the end of the season, those 2 losses on your record stick with you. Now, of course, that rule changes if that's an SEC team. That's a different story. However, if you're like an Oregon Ducks, right? Or let's say you're the Wisconsin Badgers and you lose week 1, week 2, or let's say you're 3-2 after week 5 going into conference play, right? Your chances of making it to the playoff are slim to none based on, the fact that you've already lost 2 games. But what if you have a player that comes out like Georgia did with JT Daniels? You have a player that changes everything, a quarterback that comes in and changes everything. And your team becomes one of the best over the course of the season, right? That's the beauty of a lot of other sports. The Jaguars could start 0-6 and win 10 straight, and they'll make the playoffs by way of policy. That's the NFL standard. That's the policy. Win your division, win wild card, whatever. There's a standard. There's still not a standard. There's still not a structure, but at least 12 teams kind of opens up more for more teams to progress throughout the season. And plus, what does this do for recruiting? It does a lot. For the last 8 years, about 6 to 7 coaches have been able to go into someone's living room and say, hey, come play for me and win a national championship. Come play here and win the conference, go to the national championship, right? 6 or 7 coaches have been able to say that for the last 8 years. Well, now about 15 or 16 coaches are going to be able to say that. So that 4-star recruit that's thinking about maybe going to Auburn or Alabama, and maybe he gets more playing time at Auburn over Alabama, maybe he leans more towards Auburn because he has a chance to win a championship. He has a chance to go to the playoffs, right? And that's all we ask for in most cases is, hey, let us into the dance and we'll see what happens. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that you're going to see upsets like we do in college basketball. That's not the case. I think the sports are completely different. And for the most part, in college football, physicality wins all, right? But back in 2017, when UCF beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl, and before you say, oh, Poojie, what are you getting into here? I'm not even going to say the word national championship, okay? I'm not going to say that word. What I'm going to say is I think what a lot of fans wanted back in 2017 was just a chance to play the top competition, right? That's what it comes down to. We could get boat raced by 30 like Michigan State or Washington or Wisconsin or whoever else is lost by that much in the playoffs. We could do that. But we just want a chance to be there. We want the national spotlight. We want the brand exposure. And I say we as in saying those teams that have never had a chance to get there. Maybe it's Iowa State. Maybe it's North Carolina. Maybe it is UCF Cincinnati. Maybe it's Boise State. Just give them a chance to get there and at least be on that platform. That's a cool stage to be on. And we're a country that's currently built on inclusion, right? We want participation trophies. We want inclusion. We want people to be able to feel the love and feel the enjoyment and feel the energy. Yet in college football, second it shifts to college football, you got all these people in the Southeast, all these people in the Midwest saying, no, it's got to be 4. That's the only way. That's the only way to do it, right? Well, what if the AFL-NFL merger never happened? How would the NFL look now, right? Or what if MLB didn't expand west, right? Like what if the Dodgers never went out to Los Angeles, right? Change happens. Like this is going to happen. And you just got to deal with it for the better of the sport. And honestly, if you're going to look at it in a negative light, you're only going to see the negatives. But look at it with an unbiased mind and just see what happens, damn it. Like, it'll be fun. conference championships still matter. The top 4 teams get a bye. You're telling me if Alabama's playing Georgia in the national or the SEC championship, they're not going to be, vying for a top 4 spot for a bye? All these teams are complaining, oh, we don't want to play more games. We don't want to play more games. Oh, my God, we don't want to play more games. All these players are going to go play 16 games a year, 17 games a year anyway in the NFL. So what difference does it make? We don't want to play more games. All right, well, go get the bye. Go win the conference championship. Oh, well, conference championships don't matter because every team's going to make the playoffs. Well, you can get a bye. Or if you finish 5 through 8, you can get a home playoff game. How cool would that be? You get a home playoff game. That's pretty dope. So these games do matter. Okay, and they matter more, actually, because they matter for seeding. They don't matter necessarily, obviously, for top 4 like the BCS or the college football playoff was, right? And my thing with the college football playoff when it was at 4 teams was, if we're always looking at the top 6, that tells me that there's usually 6 or more teams deserving. Now, was 12 a lot? Did I think they were going to go to 8 first and then 12? Yeah. But I also think when this move happened, they weren't going to do it lightly, and they were going to go for the biggest money grab humanly possible, and ESPN controls everything, and that's exactly what happened. They went for 12 with a 4-team bye to begin with. First round's going to be 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9. Higher, better seed gets the home playoff game. That'll be cool if UCF's in that top 4, 5 through 8, to get a home playoff game against maybe like an LSU or like a Michigan or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. But Oklahoma, so here's the thing. We talked about Power 5. Oklahoma, just recently, Oklahoma and Texas come out and they say they're joining the SEC, right? Like, I don't even think they have to ask. Obviously, the SEC is going to be like, hell yeah, except for like Texas A&M and maybe one other school. So it's not even like a request to join. It's like, yeah, you're in if you want. Okay, it's like a little, brotherhood, little society, the SEC. It just means more. Well, what it means more of is confusion now elsewhere. I mean, SEC's come out and said they're going to do 4 pods of 4 teams in each pod, which I think is cool, kind of like a AFC, NFC conference in football, whatever. It's the best conference in football if you don't think that you're dumb. Let me say that again. SEC is the best conference in football, and if you don't think that you're dumb, okay? A third time? No, I won't say it a third time. We're in a situation where Oklahoma and Texas leave the Big 12. Where does that leave the Big 12? Or should I say the Little 8? Because now there's only 8 teams left, and like 2 teams are keeping it afloat, and that's West Virginia based on basketball, Baylor based on basketball, and maybe a little bit of football. Kansas hasn't won more than 3 games since like 2011. They had Aqib Talib one time. He's a pretty famous NFL player. He was on Kansas. Kansas State hasn't been shit for a long time. Like, they'll be a top 25 team. Cool. Texas Tech had Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield. Cool. Oklahoma State had Justin Blackmon. Cool. Chuba Hubbard. Cool. But none of these teams, like, I'm saying that sarcastically because I'm saying, like, none of these teams have ever been anything for the Big 12, right? Oklahoma and Texas has held that conference up. So what does it mean? Where do these teams land? We'll see in the coming days. I'll definitely be on this podcast talking about it. What I want to see, obviously, 4 conferences. It'd be great to, see the SEC at 16. The Big 10 maybe expands, grabs Pittsburgh and maybe Louisville. The ACC expands, maybe grabs UCF, Cincinnati, Memphis, and South Florida. Who knows? Big 12, maybe some of those teams go into the ACC and Big 10 and Pac-12. So we'll see what happens, but it seems like it's trending in the direction of 4 16-team conferences. And Oklahoma and Texas, they're getting way ahead of it, and I love it. They're willing to pay the money to the Big 12 to leave early. They want to play in the SEC as soon as possible. We'll see what happens and where the dust settles. But let's get into a new segment I want to call 90407 Sports, as you can see behind me. Jacksonville Jaguars flag. The logo is teal and black. We got the UCF flag. 904 is, of course, Duval, and 407 is Orlando, Orange County. So the 90407 Sports, pretty cool coming out of Jacksonville, tying back to the Olympics. Eddie Alvarez, the flag bearer for the United States opening ceremony, one of 2, men and women are both a flag bearer. Eddie Alvarez, one of a few athletes to ever compete in both the Winter and Summer Games. 2014, won the silver medal in ice skating, speed skating, okay? And you're asking why is he on the 904-407 Sports segment? Well, he's also a Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, okay? He's a Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. And he's in the Marlins AAA affiliate. He's in the Marlins farm system with the AAA affiliate Jacksonville. So shout out to Eddie Alvarez. Cool moment, bone-chilling moment, seeing him walk with the flag in 2020 Tokyo Olympics, happening in 2021 again. And he's competing with the baseball team, the USA baseball team, in the Tokyo Olympics. So we'll see how that team does I don't think like any actual current major league players are in it. I don't want to say, so we'll see how the team does. Japan, I think, has to be the favorite because they have like their own league over there, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, shout out to Eddie Alvarez, flag bearer, 2014 Sochi Games, wins the silver medal in speed skating. Now competing in the baseball for the USA in the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. So that's pretty neat. And then some UCF news coming out of the 407. Cam Akers. Oh wait, why are we talking about Cam Akers? He went to FSU. Well, Cam Akers gets hurt. Some fantasy implications for football. Cam Akers gets hurt in Los Angeles. So the Rams are now down a back. But don't fear, Otis Anderson, Gumby football, is now on the Rams, right? He got picked up by them. Special teams specialist. We'll see what happens. Darrell Henderson might not play in a few games in the preseason. Opens the door for Otis Anderson. You might know him as Gumby Football on Twitter. Shout out Otis Anderson, friend of the podcast back in its early days, came on the podcast and straight out of Duval as well. Otis Anderson might have an opportunity to get some playing time in the preseason for the Los Angeles Rams. And circle back to this because I think he's going to be a breakout star. He's going to be one of those people, one of those guys that people fall in love with during the preseason. That always happens. There's always those preseason guys. And another cool thing, Trey Nixon on the New England Patriots, right? We know that. He got drafted by the Patriots. Well, UCF star receiver over the last 2 or 3 years, got his jersey in my closet. Marlon Williams gets picked up by the New England Patriots as well. So are we going to see an Alabama quarterback, Mac Jones, throwing to 2 UCF receivers, Trey Nixon and Marlon Williams? This is like 2 worlds coming together into one. This is great. Trey Nixon must have shown something on film or shown something in camp with the Patriots, and he must have looked at Belichick and said, hey, go get my boy Marlon. He's still sitting out there. So Marlon Williams, good luck to him in New England Patriots camp, the Patriot way. Let's see what Marlon Williams can do. And where will UCF land in this conference realignment? We talked about OU and Texas leaving for the SEC. There's plenty of options for UCF, right? I mean, you look at a lot of articles, you look at a lot of headlines. UCF's a top 5 team for realignment, right? You got to think UCF's probably more valuable than Kansas State, maybe more valuable than TCU. You know, Kansas has great basketball. Baylor has great basketball, both men's and women's. Baylor football is back for the most part. TCU football has been what it's been for a while from when it was in the Mountain West. Remember, TCU was in the Mountain West, so they were a group of 5 school, and now in the Big 12, Little 8. Texas Tech's got baseball. That's pretty cool, right? Texas Tech's got baseball. Oklahoma State, probably the best team in the conference remaining, Oklahoma State. So where will UCF land? Will they stay in the ACC? I asked this poll on Twitter. Will they stay in the AAC with the American? Will the American pull some Big 12 teams over? Will it be Oklahoma, maybe Oklahoma State, West Virginia up by Memphis and Cincinnati? Maybe we get in, Oklahoma State for Houston, SMU. Maybe we bring in TCU. We'll do a whole podcast on that. Shout out to my boy Nick Shim for giving me some ideas on that. I definitely want to get him on this podcast. He's the source. No, I'm just kidding, but he's a great UCF mind to talk to about that. Where will UCF land? I want to see them be in the ACC. If UCF can somehow find their way in the ACC, playing with Miami and FSU, I don't think those teams would like it very much. This state is saturated enough as it is with teams. For UCF to be, it would just, it would probably mitigate or minimize some recruiting for FSU and Miami. So we're going to see what happens with that, but being able to be in the ACC and play some of that top-tier talent would be a lot of fun, especially being able to have Clemson on the schedule, whoever it may be. Big 12, whatever, Big 10, that would be ideal. Big 10 would be pretty awesome if the Big 10 wanted to expand into Florida. I don't know if that would happen, but ACC would be fun. We'll keep an eye on that. And in news of Florida football, Florida State football, the state of Florida football, UCF and University of Florida have finally agreed to the long-awaited matchup. Emphasis on long-awaited. We will be awaiting a long time because 2024 in Gainesville, that's coming up, right? 2030 in Orlando, and then 2032 in Gainesville again. So make sure you plan the rest of your life around these 3 games. Make sure any weddings aren't falling into these dates. Potential kids, you'll have kids watching these games, right? Make sure you keep your health up so we can make it that far to watch these games in 2030 in the Bounce House, which, by the way, UCF teasing on Twitter, or maybe a stadium expansion by that point, who knows. And also in scheduling news, UCF announces a home-and-home with Maryland in the Big Ten. Who knows, one day maybe this will be a conference game, UCF versus Maryland. The teams have split the matchup in the past 2016 with Maryland winning 30-24 in Orlando. And then the next year, the undefeated season, UCF stomping out Maryland 34-10 in College Park. So 2025 in College Park, Maryland, 2028 in Orlando. And a lot of people are going to be upset about the home and home and home, 2-for-1 against Gainesville, against the Florida Gators. Don't be. Don't be mad. Go win the fucking game. Excuse my language. Stop complaining. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You got to understand, no matter how good we've been, no matter how good UCF is, you have to compartmentalize everything, okay? As much as you want the respect and as much as UCF wants the respect, go out there and just play the game. Just do it. Stop complaining. Like, it's like we're sitting here and I love UCF, don't get me wrong, but some of the fans are just ridiculous, man. We need everything to be perfect. It has to be a home and home. It has to be at the bounce house. It has to be here. All right, I get it. Bounce house. I agree with that. I want it to be at home. But just go win the game. Go play the game. Win the game. Do it. Like, don't worry about the 2-for-1. I guarantee you in 2032, when we finalize this series and finish the series out, no one's going to think back to 2021. Oh, wow, what a bad series that was. Oh, my God. Can't believe we did that 2-for-1. You idiots. Why would you do that? By that point, the games could be canceled, likely. Based on realignment, based on, different things happening. Like, come on. Are we seriously going to complain? Like, we're playing, oh, well, South Florida had a schedule of 2-for-1. Okay. So, why are we letting what South Florida does dictate what we do? Because South Florida can schedule a 2-for-1 and they can go lose by 30 points all 3 games. Let's schedule a 2-for-1 and go win all 3 games. How about that? How about them apples? But no, I'm really looking forward to it. I have a lot of Florida Gator fans. I respect the fan base a lot, actually. A lot of people might not like hearing me say that. I hate South Florida. Florida, I don't hate as much. I just want a chance to play them, so that'll be a lot of fun to be able to play them. And finally, in the 90407 Sports segment, Jacksonville Jaguar training camp has begun. Rookies reported last week. Trevor Lawrence looks like a god. He looks like an angel. He is the most precious little football player that Jacksonville could have asked for. He looks amazing. I'm seeing reports that he is throwing the tightest spirals people have ever seen in person. Granted, these are Jacksonville media people, so they don't have the best sample size to go off of. From Byron Leftwich, David Garrard, Blaine Gabbert, Blake Bortles, Chad Henne. That was a fun one. So Trevor Lawrence looks good. And in other news, Zach Wilson's mom is attractive. That's about all the New York Jets have. So sorry about your luck, New York. And apparently the Jets fans want to forget the fact that they ever had the chance to get Trevor Lawrence. Well, the Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence and the Jets don't. So the Jags are obviously, they have the upper hand. But the real battle is going to be in December 26th, the Christmas present we all could have asked for, Jaguars versus Jets. Hopefully a meaningful game for the Jaguars, who knows, in a nice, beautiful, shitty-ass stadium in New Jersey, playing against the New York Jets up there in the Northeast. So the positional battles, there's a lot to go through. Positional battles, what wide receivers will make it? Is Tim Tebow going to make the team? Is the secondary solidified? Do we know who's going to be playing where? Defensive line, there's a lot to talk about there. What players will be in what positions with the new 3-4 scheme from Joe Cullen? Come on, bring me some of that. I want that talk. So we'll get to that talk next week on episode 101 in segment 90407 Sports. So I appreciate you being here for episode 100. And again, I appreciate the support of the podcast. I know it's been around for over a year now, and I couldn't be here without the support of all of you out there listening and watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying tuned in. Go follow on Instagram. Go follow on Twitter, putting out sports bets every night. Refer me to a friend. Refer me. That's what I want you to do. Tell a friend about me. Say, hey, this guy Poojie, he's an idiot, but you should go listen to him because he's got everything going on in sports. So go enjoy the Olympics. Olympic golf starting here soon. Go enjoy some training camp, whatever city you might be listening from. Go enjoy some training camp. We'll get into some Jalen Ramsey talk next week as well with the Jags boys. But until next time, go enjoy all the sports in the world. Smile, have fun, enjoy your weekends, take time for your mental health, and most importantly, go make this world